out there in podcast land? This is Severen Henderson back again for another episode of Department 3C Presents a Podcast. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Douglas Aller of New Concept Benefit Group, but before we get to that, I have to mention a buddy of mine. I got a sponsor. Yay, sponsor. I need to have the clap added in, the ovation. So, no, that's okay. The guest is asking, can I do the clap for you? We're going to add it later, so it's all good. But I do have to mention my buddy, Jake's Window Washing and Gutter Cleaning, LLC. Jake's number to get in contact with him is 216-702-4061, and he has a website. He doesn't have a website. He has a email account. I'm sorry. It's Jake's Window Washing LLC at gmail.com, and you can get in contact with him and you can tell him that you heard about it on the Department 3C Presents a Podcast. He works in the Chicagoland area, so if you're listening to this somewhere else, hopefully in the world, you can't just call him and say, hey, can you come here? And then on top of that, he has a 216 number, but he's working in Chicago, so that's kind of interesting too. But he's in the Chicagoland area. Jake's Window Washing and Gutter Cleaning LLC. Again, the number is 216-702-4061, and he does windows, gutters. He does an excellent job. He's been at this for a while. He bought some new equipment just so he could get up and not fall, so you don't have to worry about any of those issues when he's cleaning your gutters and your windows. And like I said, he's a really good friend of mine. We both moved here to the Chicago area from Ohio, and we've been buddies. We even knew each other before we first moved here, and we just got very fortunate to be in the same academy class together. So one day I'm going to have him come on, and we're going to tell stories about being from out of town and coming to the great city of Chicago. But until then, please look him up for his gutter and window washing company. So, again, I mentioned we were speaking with Douglas Aller today, or Doug Aller, of New Concept Benefit Group, and we're going to talk about everything financial. We're going to talk about how to start your financial career within the service of a public safety employee, what to do in the middle of your career, what to do towards the end of your career, everything you can think of. So I was telling Doug, I'm a pretty curious person, and I like to ask questions because I don't know much. So that's the role I'm going to play here. I'm just going to ask any question I can think of. I'm going to write them all down, and we're going to get them all out. So that's how the format of this episode is going to go. Doug, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Severen?
I'm outstanding. I'm very happy that I was able to catch you and wrangle you down. Like I was telling my other guests, trying to get these podcast guests and wrangle them is like being going to a rodeo show or something. It's like I got to throw the rope around you, tie you up 4 times, get you on your back, and get your hands and legs together. It's a trip. But I'm glad I was able to catch you. So let's talk finances.
Okay.
My first question. So tell me what the New Concept Benefit Group does exactly.
Well, we've been doing this since with Local 2 or Chicago Fire Department people since 1997. We started doing it.
Okay.
And we are walk in the door, investment, insurance, tax planning, wills, trusts, accounting firm. And we play in a real small sandbox. It's first responders, sworn, primarily sworn first responders. I think all first responders in Illinois are sworn. Mm-hmm. We have we do a little bit of work. Judges in Illinois are sworn, so we do some accounting work for some of the judges, all of them on this side of the bars of justice at this point anyway.
Right, we are in Illinois. So.
Yeah, that's right. So that's what we do, in a nutshell, is we're a planning firm. You come in, you have goals, whether you're young, old, or whatever, and that's what we do. We have about 450 Chicago firefighters clients, about 85 retirees.
Okay.
So kind of run the gamut.
So that's my initial question. How does one get in contact, how would I start? So I just started on the job. I just came on, say I just passed my year candidacy. What would be some of the options, or what would I need to do to set up my finances for the at least 5 years?
Well, I think that's a realistic time frame, and excuse me. I think one of the things that we run into is when people are in the academy, and we've been one of the firms that have gone through the academy, and to borrow the term from the fire service, but you're really drinking out of a fire hose down there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is a parade, a cavalcade of different vendors going through there.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And we're one of them. I'm not passing judgment on anybody. But and so you wind up you start some things, and that's good. I mean, you should definitely get in deferred comp. That's a good starting point.
Deferred comp. Okay.
They're down there. Put the value of time on your side.
Okay.
And so that's a starting point. And here's why deferred comp is a good idea. It's a pre-tax program. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's through Nationwide. Nationwide's a very good company. You got a lot of choices in deferred comp. It is pre-tax. So if you're making $50,000 a year and you put $3,000 a year into deferred comp, your taxable income goes to $47,000.
Okay.
And I'm oversimplifying that, but that's basically what it does.
Yeah, I just want to give it to me however it comes.
So that's a starting point. There are, when you're down there, there's multiple options for buying life insurance. It's a group term plan. There's also a permanent policy. It's with Metropolitan. Those plans are fine. Uh-huh. I think they're better for if you're a healthy person. I don't know that that's the best route to go. Okay. And the reason I say that is you're putting a pool with everybody. It's a group plan. Mm-hmm. There's some modified underwriting in that where they have to take, that they're forced to take people that they probably wouldn't take from a health standpoint. Mm-hmm. If you were buying it individually. Okay. So to put that in perspective, let's say you have auto insurance, and you are in a pool with 19-year-old drivers that all have 3 speeding tickets on their record.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. If you really want to be in the pool with 50-year-old drivers with no speeding ticket.
Correct.
And so that being said, you have this situation where on the group side, if you're healthy, it's not a good deal. If you're unhealthy, it's a really good deal. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the other plans that's available through the city. Okay. And just the idea of getting started is the key to it.
Right. Well, that's what I want to know. Like how, because like you said, down at the academy, you have all kind of people that come through and see you. They come through to ask you for donations for this cause. How about you throw a little bit to me for this cause? And when you're in the academy, you have the money. You have a treasurer that kind of takes care of everything. So you have the resources available. But once you get out of that academy setting, even though you're signing up for a lot of stuff while you're in there, just what else would I look to buy? So far I have deferred comp. We talked about a little bit about MetLife and how those go.
I mean, there's an accident plan through PFIA, Professional Firemen's Insurance Association. That's Shanahan. I think that from a product standpoint, I think that product makes a lot of sense. Uh-huh. I don't know I don't know who else they had. How long ago were you down there?
I was down there 11 years ago, and I was just down there as an instructor not too long ago. So I got to see some of the different companies that came through.
So you're a tier 1 firefighter.
I am tier 1.
All right. Okay. And the whole idea is to get started. The problem is, I won't say it's a problem, but those are financial products that you buy down there. Those really aren't financial strategies.
Okay, so tell me about strategies. What are the strategies that someone should get into?
Well, and I don't want to sound like we sing Kumbaya at our office the first day you come in. Right. But I want you to understand that it's important what you think. What's important to you, and so you tell us what's important. You don't have to. And when we're one-on-one. Uh-huh. And we're not on a recorded podcast.
Right. It's a little different. Yeah.
A little different.
Because
you can say,
people have different goals and things they want to set up. Some people want to go all the way off the grid. Other people want to stay in the city for the rest of their lives. So I understand it's not just cookie cutter. What should I do here? Do this.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. And that's where the financial plan that we put together, the thing's 80 pages long if you want it to be 80 pages.
Right.
I mean, there's 5 pages that mean anything, but there's 80 pages of stuff that you can look at, and it looks at everything. It takes, it's certainly not a crystal ball,
right? But
it gives you an idea. Okay, for the next 5 years, this is what we're going to work on.
Okay.
And I think what happens is you get too overwhelmed because there's so much going on. Like a lot of people that are in the academy, this might be their first real good paying job.
Yes, that is the case for a lot of people.
Right.
Especially different ages. I came on, I was 28, and then it was crazy. Well, not crazy, but we had other people that were in the academy. They were just like turning 21. So they had like just now starting to put together a financial plan, which is awesome for them. I mean, it's great either way it goes, but different people are at different stages in their lives when they come in. Some already had some money saved. Other people, this is first time I opened up a bank account was coming to the academy, and first time me having to get a driver's license was starting the academy for some people.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, some, like, we'll have people at the academy that are maybe coming out of the trades, right?
Yep.
And they might be taking a pay cut.
Yes, that happens as well.
Right.
Yes.
So they might take a $15,000, $20,000 pay cut.
Yep.
They're going to make that up over their lifetime, hopefully. But yes. They're going to take a pay cut. So they have some, they have some changes in their life that they're going through. And if I could say that one thing that makes a difference is get a written budget.
Okay.
And realize, and not just like, oh, I got it in my head. Because the problem is if you don't have it written out and you have, you don't know if you have a dragon or not. And you can't slay a dragon if you can't see it.
Right.
And so the budget is a starting point, right? Okay. This is how much is coming in. This is how much is going out. And the caution that I would also say for young firefighters and paramedics is don't get stretched out on a car.
Okay.
That's like, I've been doing this a long time.
Now, this is what I'm looking for. Get a written budget. Don't get stressed out on a car. Come on.
Don't get stressed out on a car. If your car doesn't have 3 rust holes, you probably have too expensive of a car.
Okay.
No, I don't mean it like that. But I mean, I don't think what we run into is, I'm going through this with a young firefighter right now. New job, came on, went past his probationary period, and goes out and buys a Ford Raptor truck.
Okay.
The payment is $645.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So that's a big number, and that's a really big number with his wife, who's not working right now because of COVID.
Yeah.
So those things that always seem like they're going to happen to somebody else
happen to you.
They happen to you.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, again, live within your means. Great book called The Millionaire Next Door.
Yeah.
Written years ago. It's along the lines of like the book that was written before that called The Millionaire Barber. And we quote that when we're at the academy. We quote that book because it's an interesting book. It's written by, I believe it was 2 researchers. I think the one guy's name is Stanley, and I think the other guy may have died. The book's fairly old.
Okay.
And they go out and look at people that make themselves millionaires and how they do it on their own, right? So it's not people that are, that are part of the Lucky Inheritance Club. It's not people that are making it playing sports. Their research was about people that make their living basically with their hands. Mm-hmm. And how they become millionaires. And so it's an interesting book from that perspective. The biggest takeaway from that is that you need to live below your means.
Right.
And get a savings account or an account established so that when we call it the send lawyers, guns, and money account.
Yes, that's what we need.
You're going to get that phone call, right, from a relative that goes, hey, listen, I got this problem. Or, your car breaks down, or or something happens to your roof, or something that pops up. You have to have a place to be able to touch cash.
Okay. Now, speaking of that, and speaking of having cash tucked away, I know one of my financial mentors, my uncle, he always said, Seven, you got to have 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. And that's how much. Is that what the suggestion still is, or has it changed a little bit?
Well, I mean, in a perfect world, you have 3 years, right?
Okay.
But,
Ooh.
well, I can't tell you the number of people that don't have it, but I will say, and one of the things about at the academy is you get the opportunity. I think they give you an opportunity to join the credit union, right?
They do.
Okay. So I think that's a good idea. Credit union savings rates right now are just absolutely terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Short-term rates are. But one of the things about the credit union is that it is payroll deducted out of your paycheck. It goes to someplace.
Right.
And let's say you have a bank that, let's say you're dealing with Citicorp or whatever bank.
Mm-hmm.
That's your day-to-day bank, right? That's where you're going to have your debit card. You're going to have your credit card. If you got an ATM card, if you need access to your money, you can do that with your phone.
Right.
One of the benefits of the credit union is that it's like this, it's not secret, but it's an account that you squirrel away.
Yes.
Right? It's like the proverbial Christmas club account. And because it's payroll deducted, it comes out of your paycheck and you don't see it.
You don't even see it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the save it before you can spend it.
Yeah. And it takes effort to get to it.
Well, the people of the credit union, I hope they don't hear this, but yes, it does take some effort
no,
to get
that's
to
a
it.
good
And that's
thing.
a plus.
Yeah, that's a good. I'm not saying it
Quite
as a
frankly,
negative thing. I hope they do hear this because thank you for
you-
making that effort for me to get my money.
Well, if it was available, it'd be gone.
Exactly. Because
Right.
sometimes I see something, I want to say, ooh, I see it, I like it, I want to buy it. I got to think about it. And
There
then
we go.
that drive to the credit union, or even that call to the credit union, and they kind of have that tone in their voice like, are you sure you want to take out all this money? Like, maybe not.
They go, what do you want it for?
Exactly. What do
Yeah,
you want it for? But
exactly.
it's my money.
Yeah.
Doesn't
No, that's
matter.
it. That. But yeah, I'll kidding aside. One of my mentors on this job, or on your job, was a guy named Tom Luzak, and he was a president of the credit union for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also on also on the pension fund, and so he and I saw eye to eye on some things. We did not see eye to eye on investing for a long time.
Okay.
But we became good friends, and he was like a father to me. And he was on the credit union board, and we talked about, I go, you guys don't have real good access, and he would say, well, sometimes that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's part
So,
of the plan.
yeah, it's like putting the paper bag in the backyard. You go out there and dig that thing up awful easy.
There you go. So I have two questions now, because we talked a little bit about tier 1 and tier 2, so I definitely want to get to that. And the other question, you said you and the other guy, you didn't get along with investing. So can you give me two different insights on investing that firefighters can look at?
Well, I think if you don't have great experience investing, that some of the target date accounts for retirement are good accounts. Okay. So if you are going to retire in 2041, there might be a 2040 account that you can invest in, and it's somewhat managed money. I mean, they're gonna target it. They're going to have that target date.
Okay.
And that is, if you don't have experience doing investing, that's a good starting point. Okay.
So that's kind of like put the money in there, they handle. Is that kind of like deferred comp, or is it different?
Well,
from...
that's an account within deferred comp.
Okay.
And I don't have my list. They have a bunch of target date accounts in there.
Okay.
And the target dates, if you're just getting going and coming on the job and your investment experience isn't great, that's a good, like I said, that's a place to go, because they're going to say, okay, we're going to manage this account for risk. As we get closer to 2045 or 2040, we're going to start dialing risk out of that account. Okay.
All right.
So it's an interesting mix. If you're more experienced, you might not be happy with that.
Okay. And so that's the other side of the coin. If you're more experienced, so that's speaking to buying stocks on your own. And
well, inside deferred comp, you have an option. I mean, they have. I'm going to pick a number and say they have about 25 or 26 different funds.
Okay.
So they have great diversification within there.
Okay.
Okay. And so with that kind of diversification, you certainly can create almost any portfolio you want to. They also have an option to go to a Schwab account, which I think the number is $50 a month, but I'm not exactly sure. It might be less than that.
Okay.
And you can trade inside of with Schwab. Anything that's traded on any of the exchanges,
inside of deferred comp. You
Exactly.
can do that as well. Oh, see, there's something new I learned I didn't know, because I have a few investment accounts, but they're like separate. What's the app? Robinhood app.
Sure, I know. I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah, you can buy stuff. I have another investment account with my bank. Kind of just say, "Ooh, a stock. Let me buy it while it's low because I think it's gonna go high." That's kind of what I do just to make a few extra bucks. And then off of Robinhood, I actually did do pretty well on there at one time. I haven't been on there anymore now, but would you suggest or think that's something to kind of explore or look into, like for a beginner? Just something basic, not too much money, not like you putting a ton of money into it?
I mean, I think you want to separate these accounts into long-term accounts.
Okay.
And versus a trading account.
Okay. Gotcha.
Trading is more short-term, 1 to 2 days, 1 to 2 years. It just depends.
Yes.
And long-term this is money that has to be there. Right. This is deferred comp. That money's got to be there because you're going to retire on that.
Okay. So switch it up. Kind of that can be the hobby money.
That can be your hobby money. Exactly.
All right. So you answered that question. How I to my satisfaction. Now let's talk about in Chicago, the Tier 1 and Tier 2 programs that we have in the state now.
Okay, so the cutoff was 2011.
Right.
So January 1st of 2011. And it did the Tier 2, the benefit you're going to have to stay out on a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have my cheat sheet with me, so I don't want to get too far into the weeds with this, but one of the biggest differences is the Tier 2. If the when the firefighter retires, and I'm talking CF Chicago, right?
Yes.
If the firefighter retires, and he or she passes away in retirement, the widow gets a higher benefit. The widow gets 66%, I believe, of the pension. Tier 1 people, you're a firefighter, you're retired, you're making $6,000 a month. You pass away, your surviving spouse gets a 50% pension payment.
Okay.
So it goes to $3,000, and it has no cost of living adjustment.
Okay, so that's where it is. That's where it's at.
That's the number.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So that's the big difference, and I know that.
Well, there's a lot of differences to it. I have a sheet that
breaks down every difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I'll get that to you.
Okay, that's fine. And that's one of the things that we'll put up and we'll add to the episode at a later time. So Tier 1, Tier 2, those are a few of the differences. And we're at a point now where everyone's trying to get to Tier 1, right?
That's the way I understand it, yeah.
Okay, because Tier 2 is just kind of, it's there, they knocked them down, and everybody's trying to get up and get that extra benefit.
Yeah.
Now, other cities outside of Chicago and other states outside of Illinois. I'm from Ohio originally, and I remember when I was still there and I was a full-time employee, they would talk about the drop program. Now, I wasn't getting there, but, you still hear stuff. You still want to know about it. So that's DROP stands for, what's that, Deferred Retirement Option
Plan.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about that? I know it doesn't apply to us, but do you know about it? Yeah, it doesn't apply
to you guys. And I'm not familiar with any drops on the downstate, fire or police.
Okay.
Which used to be Article 3 and Article 4. But, now they've merged all that. There's one big fire pension fund and one big police pension fund from a suburban standpoint.
Correct.
Right. So there's really four pension funds in the state of Illinois: Chicago Police, Chicago Fire, and then the merged, which would be downstate pension for fire and downstate pension for police.
Right.
I'm not familiar with any drops that are out there now, unless it's changed, which I don't think it has. But drop plans allow you to defer, just exactly what it says. It allows you to defer money. You don't take any pension you'll stop your pension at a certain point. Okay, so they're not making any more contributions into the pension. And what they're doing is they're contributing into an account, a pre-tax account, that is like a deferred comp account. It's separate. And you can use that money when you retire as cash.
Okay.
Okay.
So it sounds like they're getting basically 3 pensions: their original pension, their drop pension, and if they opted to go into deferred comp.
Well, their deferred comp would be outside of that. I mean, it'd be like you're deferring money into deferred comp.
Right.
Right. So that money's going over to your 457 account.
Okay.
That's with Nationwide, right?
Right.
The drop plan is when you get further down the road and you go, okay, I don't want to make any more contribution. Then there's a forward drop and a reverse drop, but the most common one is the forward drop. I don't want to make any more contributions to my pension.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to continue to work. I want you to take the money that you're putting into the pension and put it into a separate account.
Okay.
Okay, and that's a forward drop. I think Texas was big on drop plans. I don't know much about them because they don't really. We don't deal with them.
Right. Yes. I was just asking. Like I said,
did they
I'm
have
curious.
that in Cleveland?
Yes.
Did
they? Yes, they did. They did have that in Cleveland. The suburb that I worked for, East Cleveland, had the exact same thing, and guys was happy as a clam. They thought that drop program was the best thing ever. That's the way I understood it at the time.
Right. Right.
And it gave people just the opportunity to earn a little bit extra money. So
yeah.
Now, another question I have, even though I have a ways to go for retirement, but I still like to know because I'm a planner. I hear a lot of retired guys say, I make more money now that I'm retired than I made when I was working. How does that work?
Well, that's true. I mean, that you'll hear people go, oh, I'm working for $11 an hour.
Okay.
Okay. And what they're talking about is that has something to do with your increases in your if you got increases coming in, wage increases in the contract.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has to do with the fact that, let's say they're maxed out, so they're at 75%.
Right.
Okay. So staying an extra year or 2 years, they're not accumulating the multiplier on their pension's not going up.
Okay.
They're already at 75.
They're where they're at.
Right. So it's not going to go any higher. So that's, I think, where that mentality comes from, is that I'm not in now. The other thing is that you got to factor into that is with you guys, tier 1, it's the last 4 years. They average your last 4 years.
Mm-hmm. So that's what they base your 75% on.
Yeah, they take it and they average it, right?
Okay.
So if your salary goes up, and let's say you stay 2 additional years, then your average is based upon 2 years that are higher than if you'd retired.
Okay.
And it's kind of hard to visualize that, but you're pulling a higher number into your average because you're staying.
Right.
And if you got money in deferred comp, or you're deferring money into deferred comp, or you're putting money into a Roth IRA, or you're putting money someplace, those balances are going up as well.
Okay.
Because once you retire, if you retire from this job and you don't pick up another job,
mm-hmm.
a W-2 job, I mean, if you're working for, I'm sure nobody in the department would ever work for cash. But
right.
I mean,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. But I've heard about other people in other states that work for cash.
There you go.
Okay. But if you pick up unless you have earned income, you can't defer money into a retirement plan.
Right. Okay.
So you're got that money growing that much longer.
Okay. So you said they picked the last 4 years. Before what I remember, not for here, again, out of town, is that it was your top years, no matter.
That's the way it is for the suburban fire.
Okay.
And suburban police, they take the multiplier comes off their last year.
Okay. So right, they took the top years, not just the last 4, because like in the beginning, you could be making goo gobs of money, and then when you get towards the end, maybe not as much. So.
Well, I tell you where that becomes interesting is, and we tell our clients, and we do, when we use our software, it's set up for fire and police and people with pensions.
Right.
I mean, it's very robust. We could put, we could use it to launch SpaceX. I mean, it's got that many inputs on it. Okay.
Okay.
And so if you want to get way into the weeds, but the biggest picture part of it is that if you use the higher number, or you get a rank change, mm-hmm. or you get a step raise. Well, you're not going to get a step raise, but you're going to get a contract raise. Let's say you got a contract raise.
Yes.
Okay. Or you have you got a rank change, and you probably you got to look at it. I mean, it's a quality of life question, right?
Right.
But if you go from being, let's say, a firefighter to a lieutenant, that's a big jump.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Especially if you're close to retirement with that much time on the job. So do you want to pull that lieutenant pay into the pension?
Okay.
And does it make sense to stay for 4 more years to pull that lieutenant or captain's pay into the pension?
So again, that's just your plan, what you want to do, quality of life, like you just said. Do you want to?
If you have bad health,
Yes.
or you have, or you have, there's not longevity in your family.
Right.
I mean, those are quality of life issues, and those become more important than the numbers a lot of times, right?
See, that's the part that I appreciate about having these conversations. And like I said, it's not cookie cutter for every person. It's different. People want to go different places. They have different goals and different travel arrangements. But the fact that your company comes up with a plan for people, for each individual, is the part that I appreciate the most.
Well, it's what we think doesn't mean shit.
There you go.
Okay, it's what's important to you.
What's important to you, right?
If it was up to me, I would have stayed living on a farm and raising dogs. I mean, here I am now. So I mean, will I go back? I don't know. But,
right.
It becomes what's important to you. What's the money is. It's not the vehicle that you ride in. The money is somewhat of it's not a means to an end. It's what it allows you to do what you want. And if you sit down and you go, this is what I want to do, okay? And we plug it into the software and we create a Armageddon worst case scenario, economy comes apart, rate on return, return rates are 2%, and it still shows you got enough money, then you should quit.
Okay.
Right? If you win the game, quit.
If you win the game, quit.
Right, because you're not going to. Here's the surprising thing, and this is proven statistically. None of us get out of this alive.
No, yeah,
right. It's 100%.
100%.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So I mean, and I run into that. We run into that with our firefighters. You don't take somebody who is a lifetime saver, get them to retire, and they become this spendthrift. They just don't do that.
Yes.
Right? And so part of the process is we encourage people. We don't say, let's squirrel away a little bit of money for a trip every year.
Okay.
Right? You want to go back to the old sod in Ireland. You want to do a cruise. You want to do something. Let's carve that money out of the plan every year based on, and go spend it.
Right.
That's hard for people to do.
Yes, because that's what, like I said, I'm a planner. And I remember when my mother was retiring, and I said, number one thing you should do is find something to do, because it all too often, even back there, and I feel health-wise we've gotten a lot better firefighters, but guys and girls, but people would retire and then die.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have the opportunity because they were so used to their routine. They were so used to going to work. They were so used to doing what they were doing that once they didn't have that anymore, that just kind of the thrive just left. They just passed away a lot of times.
Well, I think you have to have enough money to sleep at night and enough purpose to get up in the morning.
Right.
And I didn't make that up, by the way. I took that out of a book.
I'm with it.
All right, cool. All right. But I think that's true. I mean, I'll give you a real life example. So my parents did not have a lot of money at all, and our family was, we would have loved to have been middle class, but and so my mom was like this. My mom had her religion, and so she always wanted to go to the Vatican. She'd talk about that for years. Okay. And then at Thanksgiving, she'd get up and announce to the family, we're going to go to the Vatican next year, and we're going to pay for it. And we'd be like, great. That would happen for a series of years. Okay, and then 9/11 happened, and then my dad had cancer, and then there was a series of things that were setbacks, right?
Okay.
And she, in 2009, in June, my mom died. And we went to her savings account, and we took the money out. And what do you think we did with it?
Hopefully send her to the Vatican.
We went to the Vatican, exactly. So, I mean, in those things you don't want to, again, it shouldn't be spent foolishly, but and that's the thing that we run into with budgeting as well. When you start to do a budget, you always get these like, well, it's restrictive. You get like a scowl.
Yeah.
Well, if you build a fun account into the budget,
it's not restrictive.
It's not restrictive, and you don't feel guilty about spending money on, an adult toy.
Okay.
Not that kind of toy.
No,
I saw that smile. I'm talking about
like
a Harley or a motorhome or something like that.
I was actually thinking of a flamethrower. That was the first thing that popped into my head when you said an adult toy, because I was just looking at flamethrowers the other day, and I said, what could I do with this? Probably nothing, but I want it. So,
well, I'm not sure how the screws are set in your head, Severen, but
I'm just telling you. I'm just sharing. I'm just saying.
You're not just telling me you're on a mic here, brother.
Oh, yeah. People can know it's okay.
Okay.
Nothing to hide with a flamethrower. If you want to buy me a gift, flamethrower might be a good idea. I'm just saying.
And will Amazon deliver that to your front door, or how do they do that?
I'm going to find that out.
Okay.
But I'm just putting it out there into the universe. I'm just saying. Flamethrower would be a great gift for me.
And after you get it, if there's people following you around in a black Suburban, there's 4 people in it with like sunglasses on, should we be concerned?
It depends on if I'm going to use the flamethrower or not. Right. So I just want to start campfires effectively.
Well, okay, so let's use that. Let's take that to a different degree.
Okay.
Everybody has a different thing that they want to do. And we run into this sometimes too. We'll get people that go, we'll get people that are 5 years away from retirement. And the spouse will go, well, I want the money in deferred comp to go to the grandkids. Okay. And the other spouse goes, I want to spend my last dollar the day I take my last breath.
Yeah, I think I'm that person.
Right? And so it's just it's the total opposite of way they look at it. That's more of a challenge to deal with. But as a rule, they find, like I said, we have a harder time getting people to encourage them to go spend the money, because there's all these what ifs. And I'm talking about retirement.
Right.
With the younger firefighters and paramedics, it's like I said, the key to get started is just get a written budget.
Okay,
Step
get a written
one.
budget.
Right.
That's step one, and that's exactly what I was looking for. So I was going to ask you a different question, because I'm gonna ask them together.
Okay.
Where? So we're and this is for. Depends on the person, where they want to go or anything. But suggestion-wise, I know a lot of people, when they do retire, they tend to go to states that don't have a state income tax, like Florida. That's right. Where most people go. It's warm in Florida. I despise Florida. Florida is not my place. So,
are you going to go back to balmy Cleveland?
I am not.
Okay.
I'm gonna be like the guy who said, "Who vacations in Cleveland?" I don't know anybody that goes there to vacation. Oh, it made me so mad when he said that. But cause I'm like, I live here. Well, I lived there at the time. I was here in Chicago, but Cleveland is great. Home values are great. It's just that winter. That's the same thing with Chicago. If I could just get rid of this winter, and it would be all good. Like, before COVID happened, we had All-Star game here, and I feel the NBA All-Star game here, and they did a fantastic job because Chicago has a lot of attractions, a lot of things going on. They had the draft, the NFL draft here. Right. It was cool. Chicago is a great city for that. If they could have summer all year round, I don't think it'd be another city that could compete with.
It's a great place. 8 months a year.
Yeah. And, I mean, the water, you can go out on the boat and have fun and do all that other kind of stuff. But it does get cold. We do get old. Our bones start to hurt, and I can't stay forever. So, and then tax-wise, that's another thing. I feel like Chicago is really a young person type of city, just money-wise, spending, cost of living-wise. Right. So where is a place that you would suggest people go?
Well, I mean,
everyone's different. We know,
but again, from a pure tax standpoint, I see a lot of people going to. I see people going to Tennessee.
Tennessee, okay.
They have interesting tax, or their taxes are low down there. I don't think they have a state income tax.
Mm-hmm.
In the Sunshine States like a Texas or Florida, irregardless, those make sense. We're not sure what's going to happen with taxing retirees right now.
Right.
Right now, we pay tax on when we work, and then when we retire, we don't pay any state income tax. I think that's going to probably change.
Okay.
I think we'll hear a bigger sucking sound in this state as people leave. It depends on what you read, but the lowest number I see is we lose 40,000 people a year.
Yeah.
Out of Illinois.
See that.
And they're going different places. I saw a map. You'd think they all go to the Sunshine States or they go to Texas or Florida, or Arizona. A lot of them do, but some of them move to Wisconsin. Now Wisconsin has a weird taxing system because they tax out of state pensions.
Okay.
So if your pension originates inside the state of Wisconsin, it's not taxed. If it originated outside of the state of Wisconsin, so it comes in from Chicago,
from some Illinois,
then they tax it.
Okay, that's kind of like a home rule type of thing that encourages a person to already be here. But if it's too late to go there, what are you going to do? So,
yeah, and the thing about this financial planning process, it's really life planning. The finances is obviously a part of it, but it's a life planning process. But it is the small incremental things that make a big difference over time.
Okay.
Right?
So that kind of speaks to the budgeting. The small things.
Small things. Don't get whacked on don't be late on your credit card payment, because that hurts your credit history. And what does that do? Well, down the road, if you go to buy a house or you go to borrow money and you have bad credit, then you're going to pay a higher rate.
Right.
And so that type of stuff, Vince Lombardi said football's a game of inches. Okay. And I think that's true. From a financial standpoint, it's all these small things that add up.
Yeah, all the small things add up.
And so, the tax issue, yes, that's a bigger one. And it's the differences between no state income tax. Now, one of the things that we see with retirees that is important when you reach retirement, or when you get ready to go off this job.
Right.
And most people go off in November.
Yes.
Okay. So is that if you have your separation pay, right? So you're getting ready to retire and you got a big check coming from the city because they're going to, let's say you have furloughs that they haven't bought, and you got, anyway, the city owes your money for a series of
various services.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then what happens is we encourage people to put that money into deferred comp, and even if you're going to spend it the next year, put it in deferred comp, leave it in there. So let's make the number simple. Let's say the number is $35,000.
Okay.
And you're going to be able to put a certain amount of that into deferred comp. Okay. When you leave and let's say you're not up against deferred comp's max, so you can put $19,500 into deferred comp. You put that in, and then you take it out the next year. So you put it in November, and you take it out January 1st of the following year to take a trip.
Okay.
What you just did was you avoided paying state income tax on that income.
Okay. So those are those strategies that we're looking for.
And people, I'd love to say we were the ones that thought of that. I think somebody else did it a long time before we were around, but
But if it's not broke, well, why fix it? So use that. So the other question, I started talking about that flamethrower. We were talking about adult toys. I feel like I'm to the age I want a new fast car.
Okay.
What should be in place before I buy this new fast car that I'm gonna try and not get speeding tickets in, but I'm gonna drive like I was 18?
Well, what has to be in place is you need to feel comfortable with what you're at.
Okay.
Where you're at. Okay. If I would hope that you would have your savings, your lawyer's guns and money account, where you got enough money set aside in there. You should sit down and have doing what we do. Sometimes we have, you can go to other people and they'll tell you what they think you want to hear.
Okay. Right.
Okay. Unfortunately, when we plug information into one of our into our financial planning software, it's very stark what's in front of you. Okay. It's good news. Sometimes it's moderate news. Sometimes it's bad news.
Okay.
But if you say to me, my father died at age 51. My mom died at age 63. There's not a longevity in my family. I want to buy the fast car. Go buy the fast car.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you got to enjoy it while you're here. I mean, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but you can't say to me, I want to go buy the fast car. I have $133 saved for my daughter's education, and education's a real big priority for us, because right. I'm going to say it's really not.
Yeah,
right?
Not with 133. Yeah, right. Over all that time, exactly. Okay.
Right.
So another thing I see here, you have a bunch of papers.
I do.
So what are the papers that we brought here, and let's talk about them.
Well, that is just a flow chart that talks about Social Security.
Okay. See, there we go. That's exactly what we want to get into.
So that's a flow chart. It's a yes and no question. If you can follow that, right? You can go through there, and it talks about whether you're going to be subject to windfall elimination.
Okay.
And it talks about if you're going to have Social Security reduced.
So what is windfall elimination?
Well, that happened when Dan Rostenkowski was in office, and what it said was, if you were contributing to, if you had a pension that you were, I'm again oversimplifying this, but if you have a pension that does on your primary job that you do not contribute to Social Security, okay. Now there are some fire and police departments
that still contribute.
Still do.
Right?
Well, mostly like the rural departments. I mean, like up in Lake County and some of those. Some of them still contribute. They're smaller,
right?
But they contribute. And so that said, they have they may contribute. Now, you guys, Chicago does not,
right?
Okay. And so let's say you worked a site like you in Cleveland. Did you contribute to Social Security?
No.
Okay, I would probably guess not. So what the design of the law was to make sure that there wasn't a windfall. Social Security is a safety net to make sure that people don't live impoverished in retirement. Okay. And what happens with Social Security is, if you have a side job, let's say you were working a side job, let's say somebody came on late and they had Social Security credits from before they came on this job, and then they had Social Security, and then they worked a side job where they contributed to Social Security.
Okay.
The design of Social Security is to keep you from the design of the Windfall Elimination Act was to keep you from collecting on both at the maximum amount.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Understand.
But there are people that also collect both. I would guess 20% of our firefighters will get their full Social Security benefit.
Okay.
And that's because they're working a side job. They're above in their, don't have time to get into this, but they're above the substantial earnings test over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to collect both Social Security and their pension.
Okay.
So
this is all stuff that you provide at the New Concept Benefit Group. So
we do.
How do we sign up? How do we speak to you? And well, not you specifically, but how do we get in with the company and start our planning? What do we need to do to make that happen?
Well, I mean, we have a website. Our website is pretty interactive. When you go to it, you're going to see a fire and police sign, and it's, that's a starting point. There's some, I write for a couple magazines. Some of my articles are on there.
Okay.
The guy that I practice with, Wayne, he teaches at the college level. He teaches tax and estate planning. Mm-hmm. And so he's written some articles in there. And that gives you a feel for who we are.
Okay.
But the starting conversation is, we tell people, if you want to talk to us, don't bring any statements in.
Okay.
Don't bring it in, because we're not going to have that conversation.
Okay.
We're going to talk about why you want a flamethrower or in a fast car, a flamethrower in a fast car. That's an interesting combination.
2020 is like Mad Max, and so I'm just preparing. And then I saw me, and they said it was set in 2024. So I only got 4 years away. I got to get this flamethrower broken in and learn how to use it properly. I mean, I know how to drive fast, but
okay, well,
I got to get this flamethrower going.
I have to ask, what's a flamethrower cost?
The one I saw was $700 something. So it wasn't that super
And is that
expensive.
like a butane lighter and a fan? I mean, for $700, you get one that really shoots a long ways for $700.
See that this is a new project. And if you know me, I go all in on projects. So
Okay.
this is just starting out. I just saw this yesterday, and it just so happened when you said adult toy, I thought about that flamethrower that I saw yesterday. So I'm sure there are others that cost upwards. They probably like $15,000 at some point.
Right.
I can like have a jetpack on my back and a flamethrower at the same time. Maybe I can shoot it at the ground so tough that I fly away like the Rocketeer. I'm just saying, I have all these ideas in my mind about this flamethrower and this fast car. And
So if you come to us and say, this is what I want to do,
okay,
we're going to help you try and make it happen.
Nope.
We don't judge. We don't get the luxury of judging.
that's what oh man, that's what's up.
Right?
So your services, like how much do they cost? What would I need to do
To
to
put a financial plan together, if you're a local 2-member firefighter or policeman in good standing, we sit down and we'll put that together. We won't charge for it.
Okay.
We believe in help, not hype, and so we're gonna say we're gonna do a short and sweet one. It's not going to be the 81-page one, but it's going to be 7 or 8 pages that says this is where you are right now, and we do it while you're there.
Okay.
And not on the first. We need to know that we see that we're a good fit. I think what happens is it's we'll take anybody. We certainly don't turn people away, but I mean it needs to be good. We need to have a good fit.
Oh, need to have it. Well, that's with anything. So
Yeah.
I understand that. Another few questions. I like I said, I'm a curious person. I can ask you questions forever, but I won't. Some people on this job, and not just here in Chicago, but anywhere around the country, have sudden influxes of money coming to them at different times. What would be, in your opinion, from a financial plan? And again, I know it's not cookie cutter; everybody can't do the same thing. But what would be a suggestion to do when you get just this big influx of funds suddenly?
I would say somewhat like the lottery. Certainly, don't tell anybody.
There you go. So
Right?
we're not telling anybody.
Yeah, let's not have a press conference and don't tell any of your relatives.
We're gonna show up with the scream mask on.
Exactly. The key to that is that it can be life-changing money if it's the number you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or if it's like an inheritance of let's pick a number. It's $50,000.
Yeah. Sounds good. 50,000.
The key to it is make sure. I keep going back to this. Make sure you got enough cash set aside.
Okay.
If you got any outstanding debt, pay it off.
Okay.
Okay. So if you got a high interest rate credit card, dump that.
Okay.
There'll be people that say, pay off your mortgage. The way rates are right now, yes. When you get to retirement, is it better if you're in a debt-free home? You'll hear two schools of thought on that. You'll hear people go, well, that's money buried underground and I can't get to it.
Mm-hmm.
You also will hear people say that's the only tax deduction that I get on my, I get to deduct the interest.
Right.
I mean, under the new tax laws, yeah, you do get to deduct the interest, but you got itemized to do that. So I think I would pay down my mortgage depending on where I was. If I had a kid marching off to school, then that money might already be committed.
Right.
know?
Yeah, can help them out with that.
And there's a great article that that I'm part of a Morning Star study, or part of I get news. I get Zoom meeting feeds from Morning Star, and they wrote a great white paper on paying for college.
Okay.
And it's a great piece. That's something we have on our website, and it just talks about it talks about whether a parent should pay for college or not.
Okay.
And it doesn't, and it gets into just the pure financial part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just an interesting piece. The essence of it is, if you're behind for retirement, and paying for college is going to be a real challenge, in that you can't borrow money to retire, but your kids can borrow money to go to school.
Right. That's what I would think.
And there's an overvalue of college right now. I think trade and technical school is a good fit for a lot of kids.
Yes.
And so, anyway, that's a great piece. That's on our website, and it puts things in perspective.
Okay. You know what? Let's talk about the website. It's www.ncb.net. So that stands for the new kind of
NCBG.
NCBG. I'm sorry. I said NCB. NCBG.net. New Concept Benefit Group. Every word in there. .net. So you go there and you can see a lot of those articles and everything.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. So another last-ish kind of question. I failed to mention that you have a podcast also with the same Fire and Iron Media.
Yes.
And this is kind of a collaboratory effort between the two of us. I was speaking to you. You speak to me. Are there any questions that you want to ask for someone in my position about what I think financial-wise, since you're the pro? Like you say, do you think that flamethrower is a good idea? I'll give you the real answer. No.
Okay. Is that going to be difficult when you come home with that in a box? Is that going to be a problem?
Yes, that would be a problem. So, no, that's not something that I'm going to buy yet.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
Yet. But it is in the budget. It's on the fun side. But are there any questions that you want to ask for me as far as your podcast goes and speaking to financial issues?
Well, I got a couple questions for you because I know there's a lot of people pre-COVID, obviously, that were moving to the firehouses.
Okay.
Are you seeing that? Were you see? Let's just back up and say in 2019.
Okay.
Do you understand the difference between buying a product and having a strategy?
You're talking about just in real estate and buying?
Well, I mean, in the financial arena, there'll be people that, they're going into the firehouse. They have a size 9 shoe.
You're right.
And they're going to take a 10.5 foot and jam it into that 9 shoe.
Okay.
Right? Do you understand the difference between a product and a strategy?
I'm going to say no because I want all the information. So no, I don't understand. What's the difference?
Well, I just think the strategy is, if you were going to build a house, you'd buy a piece of ground, right? Mm-hmm. And then would you just would you go to Home Depot?
Home Depot and just start buying wood?
Buying stuff. Yeah, let's buy wood and let's give me a semi-load of that wood, and give me 900 pieces of conduit, and I want 9 bathtubs and a crystal chandelier.
Absolutely not. No,
okay,
I would not.
So what would you do first?
I would, real estate wise, buy the piece of property that I wanted to buy on, and I would get plans.
Exactly.
I would have something drawn up. I would have everything that we would do in order. Maybe if I was getting a basement, I would get that dug. It's funny that you mention it because I'm really super into container homes, and I would love to just get a piece of land and just throw some containers. Not throw them on there, but I want to have a plan to put them on there.
Well, I've seen that show, the people that live in the containers. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, the container. I want a container and I want a tiny house that I can take places. So now I do want those. Those are real life goals that I do have.
What's a tiny house cost?
It depends. Some of them are for around the 50,000 mark. Some of them go up to 150,000.
Are they portable?
All over the place. Some of them are. Some of them are. I want a portable one. I want one with the ability to take it places.
Well, you sound like a motorhome person.
They have a product called Earth Roamer, and if I could get one of those are about $400,000 because they're really nice. But if I had my wish, and I would get an Earth Roamer and just take it and drive it all over the country. They're a little nicer than RVs.
So is that a retirement thing? Is that a pre? What?
I would like to do it pre. I would on my vacations or furloughs, I would like to have the opportunity to just take it and drive it. Like I'd like to see Alaska. I'd like to just drive it there and see what it looks like, look at some animals, hang out a little bit, and then, make the trip, drive back. So I don't mind driving. I enjoy it, especially if I can stop different places and it's not just go, go, go.
Right.
I wouldn't mind. And then it gives you the opportunity to have a tighter bond with your family, kids, aunts, uncles, spouse, whoever you take with you. You know, you guys.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point. And so there's when you get to this point, you need to go make memories, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And so motorhomes are great for that.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished a trip in went back to Iowa and went with two of my buddies in this guy's motorhome. And this is like a Rolling Stones motorhome. I mean, it's nice.
Decked out.
It's decked out.
Yeah.
It's nice, and it's got the 2 slide outs. And so it's like being in when it's parked, it's like being in a hotel room with a kitchen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I had done that trip before, but you really get a good opportunity to bond with the people that are in the home. This guy does it with his kids. He's got 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
The first time they went to, the first year he had the motorhome, they went to Yellowstone.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids got in such a big fight. He turned around I think they were in Minnesota, turned around in Minnesota and drove back home.
Oh, that was a real fight.
Had the proverbial come to Jesus talk with the kids.
That's about 7-8 hours away.
He's like, if we're going to do another trip, but we're not going to fight like this ever again.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it has been he's had it for a long time, and it's a great. We were talking about that 2 weeks ago. He's like, yeah, he goes, our kids still talk about that. They still remember that,
Mm-hmm.
and so. If that's the goal, then so how do we do this? How do we get you to where?
Right.
Okay.
Buying the product.
So how do we do it? Well, you got to have a strategy.
There we go.
Right. So how do we break that down? How do we monitor it? It has to be real.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you said, I want to travel in a private jet and go to the Super Bowl every year, we'd have to have that talk that says, well, the numbers that we have says you can't do that.
I should have been earning a tad bit more.
Right,
Maybe one day, but it has to be real. Right.
It has to be real. So I mean, if you said I want to buy a motorhome, I want to buy this thing in 9 years, we can break that down.
Okay. So goals.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what I'm looking forward to. Okay. Yeah. So you asked me, did I know the difference between the two? I said no, just for the sake of the conversation, and now I have a better understanding. I'm not going to try and fit my size 10.5 shoe into this 9 that I bought just to have my toes scrunched up and be mad.
And know what you own and why you own it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not talking about doing a super deep dive, where you're going to look for a Nobel Prize in economics. I'm just talking about know why you have what you have.
I like that. Know why you have what you have, and why you want what you want.
That's up to you. That flamethrower thing.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Exactly.
I'm glad to know that I want this flamethrower just for fun. I mean, I just want to see if I can light someone's cigar for them from a COVID distance away. How about that?
Okay, that's good enough.
That's a good enough plan.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fireman. I gotta like fire, right?
Well, that has kind of a backdraft spin to it, but that's up to you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Any other questions that you may have for someone in my position, or anything else? No,
I mean, we're in a closed down mode right now. And,
yes,
and we're doing. We can do virtual meetings and we can do Zoom and that, but and that's certainly a starting point with us.
Okay.
Right. But it's you and I getting belly to belly across the table and getting all the stakeholders in the room, mm-hmm. and talking about what you want to do. That's the life planning part of it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate, like I said, it was hard trying to wrangle you. You was out hunting and having an outstanding time.
My life's not that interesting, but that's the one thing that I do.
Hey, that's interesting enough. People, like you said, it's the plan. It's building those memories. So
yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you sitting down and talking with me and having that conversation.
We'd love to have you back, and when we do ours, we'll have that. I'll have questions for you when we put ours together.
Okay, I'm with you. So one more time, Douglas Aller, www.ncbg.net, New Concept Benefit Group. You can reach out to him and see if you can get a financial plan put together for yourself. Thank you for coming in. You have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
All right. How was that?
Excellent.
Okay.
This has been a Fire and Iron Media production. You have something to say, people want to listen. How's that, Daddy?